and welcome to How to Thrive While Working From Home, how to instantly set up your new work environment for maximum productivity. I appreciate your flexibility today with your time. Obviously, someone that is focused on helping you with your time, it's important that I value that. A couple things for today. If you're new to working at home or you're a veteran, you're going to see, and I'm going to teach you some tactics and strategies that will help you take you from wherever you're at. And it's important that, as we work through today, that you focus in, turn off all the distractions. As part of maximizing your time, turn off your distractions, tune in, and I guarantee a couple things that will happen. If you follow these tips that I'm going to share with you today, you're going to maximize some productivity, and you're going to do something that I think is really important right now where there's this time where there's a lot of challenges. Create great memories with your friends, your family. This is a really difficult time that everyone's going through. It's one of the right reasons why I created this webinar, is that we're in this environment of high stress and worry, doubt, and fear. And we've got to start taking control back of our time, being focused on what really, really matters. This is a tremendous time for growth. If we do the right things, and some of the tactics that I'm showing you today will help you do that. Couple things before we start. My story, a little bit of background about me and what I do. I'm a performance coach. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've got over 20,000 hours actual coaching and training, working with entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, athletes, celebrities, large teams and small teams. My focus is one thing, is to help people close the performance gap. To take you from where you're at to where you want to be as fast as you can, but also enjoying the ride. I've written a few books. This first one here is Email Power. I wrote this about 15 years ago. This book here is about how to extract the business and social intelligence in email and texting. Then I wrote a book, High Performance Coaching. It's tactics for high performers. And then today, this is what I'm going to be sharing a lot of the content on, is my latest book from McGraw-Hill, The Time Cleanse. And this is really about how to maximize the time. It's 5 years of research of looking at what works today and what doesn't work. I'm going to go through 10 strategies today. And at the end, for those of you who've been asking, I'm going to share with you how you can work with me individually. And then lastly, if you stay through the whole webinar, I've got a bonus. And the bonus at the end is my 5-step process to have powerful conversations in these extremely challenging times. So I've been working with this for myself and with my clients that are faced with, every time they pick the phone up to speak to a friend, a colleague, it's all about worry, doubt, and fear. So I'm going to help show you how to navigate that, how to acknowledge them, have empathy, and then move into focusing on what you can make a difference with. All right, so let's get started. Time is your most valuable and precious and limited commodity. And most of us make the mistake of letting it being stolen and hijacked from us, many times not even knowing that it's happening or it's even being stolen. And when I was doing my research for the Time Cleanse, one of the things I realized is why people were stuck and stopped and stalled wasn't their fault, is they were using outdated strategies and tactics that just don't work today. And we've got to start moving our mindset from time management to time performance. Time management worked when we didn't have all this technology, but you can't manage time. It's not possible. You've got to be in the flow state of time, that's personally and professionally, and you've got to start thinking about it from a perspective of how you're going to perform with it. And with that being said, thinking about, you must have time work for you and not let it be used against you. When I was doing the research, I would talk to lots of people that were struggling with time, and they just didn't have enough time in the day. And they'd say stuff like, if my schedule allowed, if time allowed. And I actually was saying the same thing to myself. And then I just realized, who is time? You are time. You always have been. And what you say yes and no to is where you put your time. And when you shift that, you stop becoming a victim of that time is outside of you and in control of you, and you take charge of it. So as we start today, as I do with all clients, I want you to think about what you want this month, this quarter, this year. Now that things have radically changed and it feels like 2020 didn't even start, but just take a second for a moment and write down or think about it in your head. What do you actually want? Make it concrete. Just think for a second. If it's something from a health perspective, relationship, your business. But I want you to think today, as we're working on these new tactics, what do you want it for? And you can either write it down or think about it, but have it time-centered in the next 30 days, in the next 90 days. What exactly do you want? I'll give you a second to do that. All right, now that you have that, I want you to ask yourself why. Why do you want it? The goal is really important, but as we know with Simon Sinek's work and others, is the why behind it is the emotional driver. Why do you want that? What's it going to allow you to have? What will it allow you to do or be? So just think about that. You don't have to write that. I just want you to think about it. One of the tips I'm going to give you right away, when I wrote the book and did the research, they found that people that set their intention behind their goal daily had a 40% increased chance of getting that goal. And what does that mean? That means when you wake up, you set your intention. I'm going to eat my 3 clean meals a day. I'm going to make my 10 sales calls. I'm going to be present and mindful. Whatever it is, by setting the daily intention, we know that from the research, we have a 40% increase in actually getting it. We're setting our GPS. Intentions are in time right now. Goals are future oriented in time. And so a lot of times when we set big goals, we get disconnected from them. So if we're setting our goal up front with intentions when we wake up, we're going to keep that GPS right on track. Okay, tip number 1, create a dedicated space to work in. Now, I have worked from home for 10 years, running my coaching and training business. And the people that I've coached, many of them for 10 years plus have worked remotely or from home. So I've done it myself. I've made all the mistakes. I've coached sales teams, management teams. They're all over the world. And one thing I will tell you is you have to have a dedicated space to work. Now, if you're new to working at home, a lot of times it's fun, like, I'm going to work from bed or at the coffee table or over here on the patio. And I'm not saying you can't do that. But by setting an intention in a space, you create an emotional connection and motivation for that. I still get caught sometimes, working on things from my couch or my living room table. And it's not bad or wrong, but when you have a dedicated space, just like where I'm doing this webinar from today, this is my dedicated home office space. When I close the door from the rest of my house, this is where I'm making money. This is where I'm being of service in my job. So having a dedicated space is really important. Now, being in quarantine, one thing I need to add to this, you need to communicate clearly to whoever else is in the house, kids, partners, spouse, dogs, whoever it is, you got to create a clear communication strategy about when you're working. If you don't, you will be in a constant distraction mode. And there's an old saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And so when we're communicating, have that structure set up so you can honor the other people in your house. And you may have 2 people working in your house or 3. Communicate what's happening when you're in the workspace, and you'll find that your performance, your productivity, your distractions will go down. Number 2, this one people hate, get dressed for work. Christine, I know you're here today. I know you like getting dressed for work. You have the same outfit on all the time, which is awesome. Thanks, appreciate that. But getting dressed for work is also very important when it connects to that space. I'm not perfect at this. I still end up in my workout stuff. But when you get dressed for work, especially if you're working remotely temporarily, get you back in the mindset. Get your intentions back. So when you have a workspace and you're dressing for work. Now, if you're a suit and tie guy every day, you have to put a suit and tie on while at home. Well, you probably don't have to do that. But if you got slacks on or business casual, well, get yourself in that. You don't have to do that every day, but the more you can replicate what you're doing out in the world at home, the more you're going to stay on track and perform. All right, number 3, this is a big one. So the whole back third of this book is on how the last third of the whole book is how to set up your day to perform. And there's a bunch of tools and tactics. I'm going to share some of them here today with you. Number 1 is you got to schedule everything. I break the day up, and I coach this, breaking the day into 3 sections. It's before, during, and after. So before you're actually going to work. So that's getting yourself ready. That's meditating. That's eating your breakfast. That's doing your contemplation and your reflection on your day. So that's the first part of the day. The during is the performance. And so that's whatever your work hours are. And it's important that at home and working remotely, you have work hours. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're doing work at all times of the day and the quality of it's going to drop. And so one of the tactics inside scheduling your day is doing intervals. And for your workout people, you'll know what this is. It's giving maximum effort, and then a rest period. So there's 2 intervals I like to use. A 55-minute work interval with a 7-minute rest, or 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes rest. Why do we do this? The other thing that I suggest when you do it is turn off all notifications. Notifications on your phone or on your computer is the killer of productivity. So you do this so you have laser focus for a short period of time, then you rest. And when I wrote the book and when I've worked on many projects, my efficiency, same thing when I work with sales teams and other organizations, is that when you start putting laser focus on short periods of time, you see your productivity and performance 2, 3, 4, 5x, because you're going to be really effective in doing that. 4. Going back to 3, one thing I missed on 3 is the end of the day. So the end of the day is your recovery. And for the recovery period is be clear and have clear distinctions that when the end of the day ends, you're done. You're done. Now, doing that, you got to start thinking about what you're going to do for your recovery. Is it an Epsom salt bath? Is it, giving your partner, spouse, puppy a massage? What is it going to be that you're going to do to recover? Is it going to go for a walk? End of the day is around recovery. So you got before, during, and after, and schedule your day that way. So while you're working at home, while you're working remote, your whole day doesn't become work. And you'll see the difference in your performance over the days and weeks when you do this. At first, it's okay. You're kind of just blending in the flow of everything. But after a few days and a week or two, you're going to see that there's no real periods of recovery. And the brain likes routines. Get yourself on a good routine. So you break the day up in those 3 periods is a good routine. Okay, number 4, news diet. If there's one thing you can do right now for your mental health, is stop watching the nonsense that is 24/7 worry, doubt, and fear. Most people, even before this, execs that have worked with entrepreneurs, people at home, have the news on. It's just like a background. Well, that background is putting the brain in that fight, flight, or freeze mode. What does that do? Raises cortisol. What does cortisol do? It affects the immune system. So getting off the news. Now, do you have to have no news? Absolutely not. Pick 10 minutes once or twice a day where you consume the updates, you know what's going on in the world, and then shut it down. Same thing with social media. I know this is a time where, man, everyone's on there, but there's so much news in social media. You've got to protect your time. You've got to protect your focus and your energy. And the news is one of the greatest places where we just get drained. So get yourself on a news diet. All right, number 5, you got to take some breaks. So we know from research that people that take breaks and even naps outperform people that don't. So throughout your day, when you schedule it, every couple hours, have that, 20 to 30 minutes where you're just having some tea, relaxing, once again, going for a walk, some meditation, which we'll get into here in a moment, but you've got to take breaks. When you're at home, your whole day can be a break. You don't want to do that. What you do want to do is do the intensity intervals and then have some extended breaks after you do a couple rounds of that. So if you do an interval 2 or 3, then take 20 or 30 minutes for a break. One of the other things that I found in my research for the book that I love is a coffee nap. And a lot of people, when they first hear that, they go, what, a coffee nap? That's crazy. What you do, wherever your time, where your energy is low, you drink a small cup of coffee and then you take a nap. And people think, well, how does that work? Well, the caffeine takes about 20 minutes to get into your system, about 20 minutes. And if you just close your eyes and rest, what happens is the chemicals that are making you tired start to get moved out, and by the use of the coffee. That's a layman's version of this. And by the time you wake up, you're recovered and the caffeine has engaged in your system. Now, when I heard about this, I didn't believe it. And then I took, for a week, naps for 20 minutes with no caffeine and naps with caffeine. And man, the difference is when I would take a 20-minute nap with no caffeine, sometimes it would turn into 40 minutes or 60 minutes. It was a huge difference. So try a coffee nap. I think you'll be surprised in some of your breaks. All right, exercise. Obviously, this is an easy one. The one thing I will say why I've included in the webinar today is that under stressful conditions that we're in right now, the environment inside your home, outside in the world, is super high. You got to increase your exercise right now. It'll burn off the stress, burn off the anxiety, and it's going to help increase your immunity, your own strength of physical body, mind, and spirit. And it's great for every aspect. So, I've been blessed. I live close to the water where I can get out and paddleboard pretty regularly. Also bike riding. I've been outside more than ever. Make exercise a non-negotiable, even if it's a walk, even if it's just a walk. Get out in nature. The Japanese talk about something called nature bathing, and that going into nature in itself is a natural reset. And so sometimes, I'm in a high rise. I'll just go downstairs, take my shoes off, put my feet right in the ground, right in the grass, just for 10 or 15 minutes, get the sunshine. Now, you might not be able to do that depending on where you're in the country and the world, but as much as you can get outside. And if you can do that with proper social distancing with other people, so you have community, you have exercise, so you're getting some social connection, you're getting exercise. It's what I call the compounding effect of an hour. When you can put 2 or 3 things in 1 hour that you would normally separate. So if you normally would hang out with a friend for half an hour, if you can exercise, now you just got a half an hour back. It's one of the things that I promote, which is called the compounding effect. Number 7, looking forward to something. And this is one of those like sneaky tips. And when I say sneaky tips, when you are in lockdown and your day is now altered, your brain can go into that think, feel, and get caught in some really negative mind traps. One of the things to help keep you on track and motivated is to look forward to something at the end of the day. Look forward to something, plan it. It's the carrot. It's your payoff. And I'm not talking about a bag of Doritos or, an Oreo cookie roll or a gallon of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, although that could be your reward. Pick something, obviously, that's beneficial. Once again, for me, paddleboarding. I used to paddleboard at 7 a.m. Now I'm paddling early in the morning. early in the morning, or excuse me, used to paddle early in the morning. Now it's what I look forward at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I know another hour or two working with clients, working through my own research and writing, that time of the day, I'm going to have a reward. It can be dinner. It can be Netflix. It can be a Zoom meeting with your friends to have dinner. Pick something to look forward to. It'll help sustain, especially this period of time when we're stuck indoors and it's just this monotonous day in and day out. This is a time of expansion, folks. This should be a time where you're looking at how do you get better. You only get better at the highest levels when there's adversity. When you look back at your life and the things that shifted beliefs, shifted how you were thinking and being, I guarantee you there was some big adversity. Big adversity creates big change, and it allows you, and this is an important concept, to become relevant. You see, one of the benefits of what's happening in the world under all of the pain and suffering many people are going through, it gives us a time to reflect. Am I being relevant in what I'm doing in my life? Am I being relevant? What does that mean? Am I making a difference? Am I contributing? You see, when I wrote the Time Cleanse, one of the things about the process is, as you go through the whole book, is looking at what is contributing or contaminating to your happiness and success. I learned that from Dr. Phil in 2003. I listened to a lot of his programming, and he would ask the couples, is this contributing or contaminating to your relationship? And that has stuck with me all these years, almost 20 years. And so when you're looking at your life, all the things you do, your habits, your behaviors, your mental thoughts, the people you're around, the things you're doing, you have to ask yourself, is this contributing or contaminating? And make the changes. Get rid of the things that aren't there for your highest good. And that's the one thing that I've heard from a lot of clients, a lot of people out there, is they're reflecting. They're looking at what really matters. And this is a time where we can create great memories. For me, your time is for one thing, to create memories that matter and a legacy you're proud of. Nobody on their deathbed is saying, man, I wish I could get one more Instagram post up. Can I see what Susie's doing on Facebook? No one's doing that. Or another Rolex or another car. They're reflecting on the relationships they had and what mattered. And we have a great opportunity to do that now. 8, meditation. Meditation is, I think, one of the secret weapons. For the people that have coached with me or know me, I've been in the meditation game for about 10 years, was trained at UCLA, went to Japan and Thailand to get trained as well. And meditation right now, I think, is one of the biggest things that you can do to help keep yourself calm, relaxed, and focused, and being present. There's a saying that I use: the more present you are, the higher you perform. And meditation is really simple. And if you're on the webinar today, as a gift, we're going to give you one of my guided meditations. But meditation is really simple. There's many different ways to do it. One of the simplest ways is just closing your eyes, following your breath in and out. And as thoughts and feelings come up, just acknowledge them and come back to your breath. Now, I'm giving you like a micro version on this, but we know from research that meditation, which then supports mindfulness, reduces stress, increases immunity, improves happiness, creates greater brain connection in the brain. Overall, it's probably one of the things you can do that costs you zero money, takes a few minutes a day. And I've been meditating now for 10 years. It's the one thing that will improve your performance, your relationships, your well-being, and it starts training you to be here now, to be here now. And as you start practicing, it only takes a couple days for the brain to start shifting into these different positive states. When you do this, you'll find that you're less reactive. You're less reactive, and you start responding in a kinder and more focused way. So we're going to give you a link for a free meditation, a guided meditation, but meditation is the whole key. Now, from that, you heard me talk about mindfulness. When I released the book, I introduced a word called timefulness. And what's connected to the meditation is really this concept of first mindfulness, being present and aware. And what I've done is I've kind of advanced the thinking on that around time. This doesn't replace mindfulness, but it's a new idea and concept that's more specialized. And my definition is being present, aware, intentional with your time in order to improve the quality, relationship, and performance with it. Folks, your most important relationship you have is the one with time. I'm going to say that again, is the one with time. You see, when we have time for us, it allows our purpose. It allows space for our purpose. It allows great connection with our friends and family. It allows us to write the books we want to read, lead the way we want to be great dads and moms and brothers and sisters and partners. It's when you're present and protecting, aware, and owning your time and knowing your time is for one thing, as I said, to create memories. But folks, most people aren't in control of it. They're letting it be stolen. So if you take just one thing away today, is think about being timeful, being present with your time. When people are asking you of your time, what are you doing? Are you saying yes automatically? Or are these things that can actually advance you being relevant, you making a difference for yourself, the collective, especially in this time today, especially in this time when there's so much pain and suffering. The more we can be timeful, the more we'll contribute. Number 9, gratitude and laughter. One of the most simplest things that we can do. We know from research, being grateful for what we have and the simplest things. I'm super grateful today that the tech problems that we had went away. I'm grateful that I can still drink coffee. I'm grateful for the great relationships I have across the board. And I'm grateful that I'm still breathing. I'm still here. Because there's going to be a period of time when we're not, right? There's going to be a period when we're not going to be here. So it's being grateful for the big things and the little things. We know that it increases endorphins. There's a better feeling of quality for us and others. And on top of that, laughter. Laughter is what we need. We need more laughter. There's so much suffering going out there. There's so much negativity out there that we've got to counteract it. We've got to counteract it with, in my opinion, being grateful. And when we're grateful, we'll be kinder to ourselves and we'll have more fun out there. So add the laughter in there. I say probably one of the most important things, what I would call the secret weapon. So I've been trained in mindfulness, as I said, by many great people out there across the world. And a couple years ago, I started training and had the pleasure to meet Christine Neff and Mark Bremer and got some training for them around self-compassion. And what self-compassion is, what I call the secret weapon, is being kind to yourself. Being kind to yourself. You know, most people in the West think about self-compassion as like the self-serving thing that's narcissistic. As I explained it to you, it's not. And this is a big topic, but I'm going to give you some basics here, right, that you can start doing as you see on the slide. With self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we'd give to a good friend. Self-compassion really means being there for you, being in your corner, being there when it's tough. You know, when I work with my clients, I'll ask them, because I know my inner critic is something that I'm still working on. And, you know, growing up, that inner critic was really strong and really negative. And at one point was really a positive to keep me motivated. But as I got older, it cost me so much in just enjoying life. And so the 3 components of being, of self-compassion, number 1 is just kindness. Just showing up with kindness for yourself. And number 2, common humanity, knowing that whatever you're going through, others are going through. And when we do that, it can normalize our experience. If we're struggling, if we're frustrated, if we're angry at ourselves, if we're beating ourselves up, knowing that other people are going through this, it normalizes it. Quick story. When I grew up playing college football, I tore my hamstring 3 different times in 4 years. So I played at every level, junior college, when I say every level in college, a Division I school, a smaller school in between there. I played at all levels at college. And as I said, on 3 different occasions, I tore my hamstring. And one of them, the last year as a senior, I did that in front of 4 pro scouts timing me. And at the time, it was devastating for me. And I look back at how hard I was on myself and how much I tortured myself about feeling like a loser, feeling not good enough. And many years later, I have compassion for that part of me that wasn't there then, and understanding that, I gave it my best. It just wasn't meant to be. But I tortured myself many, many years of feeling not good enough, a loser. And it wasn't until I started using some of the self-compassion techniques that I started having more love for myself, holding pain with love. Now, a lot of people think, oh, the self-compassion is soft stuff. It's going to make me weak. Well, I thought that too, until I saw the benefits for myself personally. But we know from research that it'll increase resiliency, increase your grit, have you recover from failure and upsets faster, and you'll take more positive risks when you have more self-compassion. And the last thing we know, the more self-compassionate you are for yourself, the kinder, more self-compassion you have for others. This is the secret weapon. It's something that I've been focused on for the last 1.5 to 2 with all my clients, all levels. And it's the thing that has got real benefit. And some of the things you can do, I want to give this to you right now, to start with your self-compassion, is just repeat a couple phrases daily when you wake up. And it goes something like this. May I be safe. May I be protected. May I be free from suffering. May I have joy and happiness. May I have love. And we do this in the phrase of may I, which allows it to kind of settle in more and allows us to take it in. There's many ways to do it, but just repeating a few of those phrases daily will start calming your brain, your mind, and your heart. Sometimes we have resistance when we do it, so just be patient with that. Take your time, but self-compassion is something that once you start utilizing, wow, I see where I've taken bigger steps. I'm less affected by upsets or failures. And it's one of what's, as I said, why it's up there, the secret weapon, the secret weapon. As promised, I'm just going to share a program that I have coming out. It's a 30-day program, and then we're going to get to the bonus of how to have these conversations. So real quick. So put together a really simple special offer. It's a 30-day program of group coaching, and it's how to thrive and perform and increase your productivity at home. It's a 4-week course. It's 4 live webinars without the technical problems, where in a group setting, I can work one-on-one with you. And it's my complete work from home process where you'll get a lot of the things here from the time cleanse and other tools to you to really maximize your productivity. I made it basically super inexpensive. It's basically $3 a day, a cup of coffee. If you can make that happen, this will really accelerate what you learned today. A couple things that I'll teach you how to do. Organize your home for maximum productivity, how to set up your schedule for your lifestyle, how to deal with distractions, how to remain motivated, how to communicate effectively with your remote teams. One of the things that I do on a daily basis with my corporate training, especially right now, is how to effectively lead and communicate with remote teams. How to put yourself in the right mindset every day. And then key communication strategies for families in close quarters. Man, people are going insane. I know I've experienced myself a little bit, but there's some things you can do. And then there's 7 really powerful recovery and reset techniques that I'll teach you. As I said, it's 4 webinars. But one last thing, it allows me to work with you one-on-one in a group setting to look at what I call your blind spot. Everyone's got a blind spot. It's like that spot between 2 mirrors. There's the mirror that you see the rear and the side, and right between there's a blind spot. It's the thing you can't see. And over 20 years now, that's been a specialty of me working with people, is identifying the thing that is keeping them stopped or stuck or struggling. And we'll be able to shift that. And when we do this webinar in this group, you'll be able to have that one-on-one interaction and access to me that that's usually reserved for my one-on-one clients. So that's a special offer. There's a link. Today you'll get, as a bonus, as I said, the guided meditation, regardless if you step into this, but hopefully you can join us for that. And here is the bonus. And then we're going to answer any questions. The bonus is this: how to set up the results-based conversation in the face of today's adversity. So there's 5 steps. Now, I have been in more stressful conversations with clients, colleagues, and family members than I have my entire career the last 3 weeks. And so I started listening to the ongoing regular conversations I was having. How do I lead my team? How do I not get stuck, in the same negative conversation over and over and over? Here's how you do it. Number 1, write this down, please. You start being in a resourceful state. What's that mean? You're ready to have a conversation. You've eaten, you've meditated, you're emotionally centered. That's the first one. Number 2, this is the key part of this whole process. When you engage with a client, an employee, you let them share their worry, doubt, and fear. They have it. They don't know what to do with it. So be a duck. Let it roll off your back. You don't have to take on everything. You want to be there. You don't have to be responsible to them. You're responsible for them. But encourage it. Let it come out. But set a timer. Set a timer for what you're going to do. For the people that have worked with me, the egg timer is the key to my life. It keeps you on track. It's not on the tech. We don't want to be on tech. And for the people that know, another little tool is, turn your phone to black and white. It'll make you less distracted. If you look at my phone, all of the notifications are off. But the reason it's black and white is it's less charming. The phone is one of the biggest stealers of your time. Turn it to black and white, turn off the notifications. Okay, so you encourage it comes out, you set a timer, okay? Then you want to reflect, if you've had the same experience, you want to reflect how tough it is. Then number 3 is the turn, is what I call and. So you've shared your experience, you've related to them after they shared their emotion. 3 is and. I think the biggest thing that's missing in this challenge that we're having is the and. The media is not telling you the and. The media is telling you, here's the problem, here's the problem. In general, the and is the solution. The and is the light at the tunnel. So as you're communicating, you're letting them share their emotions, and then you're going to turn with the and. And the and is turning the conversation and focus on what you and or the people you're communicating can control. It's not a but. Remember, but negates and connects. Those 2 words. So you want to say and then you want to move into the focus on what you control, what the agenda is, or what you want as the outcome. And the last part that is the foundation of all of it is having self-compassion. That self-compassion then becomes the empathy for others. So those are the steps. And when you do that, you're going to find that the impact of the pain, the suffering, the challenges are out there is going to be much less. And you're going to get your teams to perform higher. You're going to be of service, first to yourself and to many people in your community, because it is challenging. You want to acknowledge that. It's the old saying, name it to tame it. Then with the and the turn, we move to what we can focus in on and what we can shift and change. And we want to keep focusing on, what we can make a difference and what's positive. We don't want to negate it. But if you miss step 2, and believe me, folks, I've screwed this up a million times. If you miss step 2 and you don't let people emote that, once again, with the time on it, the whole time it's going to leak back in the conversation. It's going to leak back in. You're going to have that person feeling like they're not being seen or not being heard. And as a leader and as somebody that's relevant, making a difference, we want to step up and be there for them. So that's the bonus. Okay, let's answer any questions that have come up. And so in the chat, send any questions you have, and we'll answer them right now. Okay, question. Pablo, thanks for joining us. The recovering part. Pablo's saying, hey, I'm having a difficult time recovering in my day. So a couple of things on the recovery aspect. When you set the beginning and end, that itself stops the focus on work. And so a lot of times when we're working, being of service, right, we're being of service for others. And so we want to start now focusing on ourselves. We want to focus on ourselves. We want to then, be of service to ourselves. So, the meditation, massage, Epsom salt bath, going for a walk, but really acknowledging that, that you need to recover. You actually need to recover. So you have to have that scheduled. I'm going to recover and list it there. That's got to be part of what you're doing in your daily activity. And I know you're a person of big service to others. Be of service for you and schedule something that you're going to do for recovery. Gotta schedule that. Okay, let's see what else we got here for questions. It says, how to develop successful habits. Train the mind and exercise the brain that will change the life for one who practices it. When someone who's addicted to comfort zone. So I think the question here is, what do you do when somebody is in that comfort zone? Well, folks, our whole culture has been in a comfort zone. And one of the things, I was on the Adam Carolla podcast, a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and Adam was talking about his son, Sonny, who's 13, that was afraid of a lot of things. And one of the things that I said to him is that you've got to start having people or him stretch himself, get uncomfortable. And, Adam actually does a cold plunge. And I said, you want to help create an environment that has some challenges for your son, and at the same time, let him know that you're there for him. So cold shower is a way to train yourself to get out of that. Another one that I do with my clients is have them fast for a day. These are things that are going to start getting you out of your comfort zone. If you're comfortable, and you've probably heard this before, you're going backwards. You've got to stay hungry. If you are comfortable, you're going backwards. You're going backwards. So there's some things that you can do to actually test yourself, but it's what I call that 1% better, right? You're on your treadmill, you're on the bike, you're on the run, you're doing that little extra. You want to quit, you go 30 more seconds. You got 5 sales calls, you want to stop, do 2 more. It's a high stakes conversation with a loved one and you want to back out, lean in. You got to practice. So you pretty much just ask yourself, am I comfortable? And if 2 things, the cold shower in the morning, 1 day of fasting will help jumpstart that. I actually did a cold shower today. I hadn't done one for a while, but that's going to get you out of the comfort zone. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So we got a couple here, people feeling physically exhausted. Totally normal right now. Totally normal. You got to force yourself in activity. A lot of people, they come to me and work with me, I'll have them start doing things and they'll say stuff like, gosh, I don't really feel like doing that. And I said, well, that's funny. Well, like, how would you feel like doing it? We have internal motivation. What happens is you do the activity and the positive feelings follow. It's rare. Man, I've been working out my whole life. Most of the time I wake up and I don't go, man, I feel so good. It's 5 a.m. I can't wait to get to the gym. I'm barely awake. You've got to do the action and the feeling will follow. And so you just got to push yourself. It's what I call making things non-negotiable. If you're not doing the physical activity or you're mentally drained, the tips that I gave you today will help, but you've just got to make it non-negotiable. One of my non-negotiables is twice a day meditation. I now do a Vedic practice of TM meditation twice a day for 20 minutes. It's a non-negotiable. That means when I'm tired, I still do it. Now, am I perfect? No, but I'm like 98% because it's in the non-negotiable bucket. Here's a question. It says, on average, do you know how much time a person spends on their phone? I'm going to keep it PG on my language, a ton. I'll give you one piece of research. There's two. One suggests it's about 4 hours, but there's a piece of research that I put in the book that said when they researched 100 people, they had a tracker on there. They touched, clicked, looked, and typed on the phone 2,600 times in a day. That's characters texting. That was an average of 100 people. It's a lot. And that's why I said earlier, the phone. In the book, I have 10 things to time cleanse your phone, but the simple ones are this. Turn it black and white, turn all the notifications off, and if you notice on my screen, right here when it goes on, that there's no apps right there. There's zero. Because I don't want to get distracted. I want to be in charge of that. Yeah, right here, someone said 2,000 times per day. It's 20, yeah. Pablo, good question here. Another one from you, which I appreciate. How do you regain productivity, momentum after you lost it? So this is a good question, right? Like I still go through this. Right before this whole, pandemic hit, I was kind of in a low productivity period. And this is going to sound a little probably counterintuitive, Pablo, is sometimes I let it ride. So you can get in that habit, and this is the opposite of self-compassion, where you got to force yourself, and then you start beating yourself up. Man, why am I not doing what I know I should be doing? Why am I not doing this? And all of a sudden, this negative messaging starts going in, and we go a notch lower. So this is a little counterintuitive. Pick a day or two to let it ride. Just say, you know what, I'm not going to do anything today. Don't force yourself. I'm telling you, this is 10 years ago, I would have never said this, but what I know this, especially if you're doing creative stuff, and I know you are, sometimes we just let it ride. And then we're kind to ourselves. I'm making a choice right now to just be in this fluid state. I've chose this. My friend Mark McDonald, the top nutritionist, he told me many years ago, just make the choice when you open up the refrigerator and there's a gallon of Haagen-Dazs, choose. I'm choosing it. That means 2 hours tomorrow on the treadmill. It's a choice. So get in charge of not doing anything. So that's one really positive thing to do. And the second thing that I will say, if that doesn't work, just look in the mirror and ask yourself, who are you? Just really be brutally honest. We got so many people not questioning what they should really be doing. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I? And am I being the man I can be? Kindly. And see what comes up. Looking at yourself in the eye in the mirror is a very, very come to Jesus moment. And I'm not talking two seconds. I'm talking, a minute of just staring in there, and then connect to your why. And no matter what's happening, those three things will move you. Oh, here's a good question, Sandra. What do you do when you're in a good flow but have set yourself a time limit for the task? Do you stop or keep going? So this is a case-by-case situation. If you're really flowing and you're doing a good job, I often keep going. You want to make sure that doesn't become the rule. But yes, if you're in the flow state, go for it. Especially if you're in the creative modes, man, milk every second out of it, but don't make that as your regular practice. Here's a good question from Christine. How do I know if I'm prioritizing the right things, especially with kids? I need to get something done and they still come and need something. Man, I write in the book about my mom, basically raised me and my brother by herself, two jobs. One of the motivating factors of writing this book, my mom never had time for herself. One of my heroes, where I learned grit from, she's the lady that taught me grit. I didn't realize that until I wrote the book. I thought, my boxing coach, that was my mom. In the last chapter, I write about my mom. What an honorable job to be a mom and a dad. You've got to prioritize in general. And I talk about in the book, what are your values? What are your top 5 values? What are the things that matter? Sometimes your kids are going to get in front of that. And so you've got to first of all identify, what are my top 5 values? What are the things that matter the most in my life? And then you got to look at how you're organizing your day, because if you are consistently having kids or any other thing getting in your way, there's something probably going on about how you're organizing your day. Get your values written down and then see how you're organizing your day. And if it's consistently being interrupted, you've got to reorganize your day. How do I stop being distracted? Man, these are great questions. First thing is, I'm going to tell everyone on here, absolutely, you got to turn off your notifications. I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse with this. These notifications are the thing that are training us not to be present. You've got to turn the notifications off, and then just practice the intervals, 25 minutes, totally focused. It's a muscle we got to train. It's a muscle we got to train. And then also just generally look at what are the things that are toxic in our life and remove them. Question about binaural sounds, gamma, delta, alpha frequencies, all great stuff. I have a whole series of hypnosis that I created. These are all things that will train the subconscious mind. Just looking here, any more questions? So here's a question from somebody that's running a sales team. John, so it's like, how do I navigate my remote team? So the first thing is you've got to set up communication around what the expectations are. So many people are now remote. And here's the other thing, folks. For a lot of you, things are going to change. Some of you aren't going to go back to work. Some of you are going to go back part-time. There's going to be more working at home and remotely than ever. This is an area that is going to explode. They're going to change how offices are set up. People are going to be at home more than ever. And so, one of the things is setting up, what the expectations are in the communication, and have regular and consistent communication, that you are putting out what the expectation is from them and back. And then, making sure that they're really clear on what needs to be done. And also part of the, working with your sales team, create some happy hours where there's some fun. Don't make it all absolutely just grinding in business, but create a system where you got to check in, where you're not micromanaging them, but it's the communication and the leadership of the team right now is the most important. And if you set those structures up, you're going to get better results from your team. And also, what I haven't talked about yet today is about when your team comes back. A lot of people are waiting. They're sitting at home waiting. You can't wait. Imagine, I told one of my clients the other day, imagine, you're a baseball player and you took 6 weeks off and you did nothing. And then the next day you had to play a game. You might not even know where the bat or the cleats or the mitt is. We've got to stay on track. And these tips that I've shared with you today is keeping the exercise of the mind and business going. How much sleep do you need? Very, very, very individual. I sleep about 6.5 hours. That works perfect for me, but I'm meditating a lot. The thing about sleep is get a routine. We know this. Just 10% less sleep can reduce your performance. So sleep is important. They say 7 to 8, but find out what works for you. But the sleep routine is just as important, that there's a regular time to go to sleep, that you're waking up, you're getting your electronics out of your room, no news media, keep a cool, dark room. Those are things that will help you sleep. Another question here. Okay, here's a good question from Troy. How can an individual balance the time for meditation and stress relieving practice while maintaining work and family? Well, it's a great question, because by putting the meditation in, it's actually going to have you be more present and less reactive with your family and work. And, we're looking at, if you're looking at meditation, that's 5 to 10 minutes a day. If you're looking at some of these other things, breath work, recovery work, they're short periods of day. So, you may not have big chunks of time to do a 20-minute meditation, but I would schedule frequent 2, 3, 4, 5-minute meditations throughout the day. And when you start doing that regularly, interesting enough, you're going to find there's naturally going to be more balance and you're going to have more energy. Not all hours are equal. I have people getting 3, 4, 5 hours back a day, but if you're multitasking in those hours, you're not going to maximize the presence that you can when you're fully there. So an hour fully present beats, 3 hours multitasking and not present. So making the meditation, the stress relieving practice is important. Finding the places that there are other toxic activities. When you look through your day, suggestion for everyone, it's exactly the core of this book, is going through your day and look at all the things that are stealing your time. Every time I do the time cleanse, this is every time, I have people say to me, there's no way they're going to get their time back. The technology category, the first category in the time cleanse, I regularly see people get between 5 and 15 hours back a week. I think, Pablo, if you're still on here, I remember you doing the time cleanse like the first or second time, and it was some giant number on tech. I don't know what the number was, but it was a big number. It might have been 20 or 30 hours. And I know you work a lot, so there's not a clock. But when you start actually looking at where your time is, there's a lot of extra time. So there is time for you. Pablo says he forgot the number was so big he wasn't sure. So awesome. Okay, that looks like all the questions that we've got. Let me wrap it up with a couple thoughts for you. You come into this life with a timestamp, and you're going to leave this life with an equal and opposite timestamp. That's your dash. That dash is every moment in time, every high and low, up or down, good or bad, dreams fulfilled or unfulfilled. And what's inside of that dash is your time. You've got an amazing opportunity today to look at where you're spending your time, how you're spending your time, and what matters. When you hop off this webinar tonight, just ask yourself, what matters? Am I being relevant? And am I making the most of this dash? The gift of death is a gift. The fact that there's a beginning and an end inherently allows us to take charge of what we're doing, that there's a purpose. Ask yourself, what am I doing with my dash? How can I be more relevant right now? That's the question. All these tools and tactics are important, but they're important when they're used with, how can I be relevant? How can I make a difference? And in that, you're going to see profound changes now. And when they turn the faucet back on, you're going to be in gear, moving forward in the right direction, not stuck, not backwards. And I finish all trainings. First of all, I want to thank all of you for playing 100%, being patient with our technical difficulties. This is our first webinar. We'll get that straightened out. But I finish every training with this phrase. There's only one time, and it's right now. There's only one direction, and it's forward. So move forward, be timeful. Love to see you guys in the month coaching program. Sign up for that. We'll answer all your questions, get these tools and tactics on the ground so you can maximize your relevancy. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you soon.